mean, I can do some of
I'm
that.
so grateful for all of the time that you've given us, and I'm so grateful for your insights. It's crazy to me how much you know. It really is crazy. Like,
Well, I mean, thank you, by the way, for making that comment at the end, because it's like, I always, when I do this live, I always say, now, I just want to warn you, you all may go out and check your phones and find out that, everything I've said is completely wrong, because it changes so fast.
changes so fast. Yep.
I think the China piece is an interesting, a very interesting point of discussion. Sure.
All right. So how about we'll just go ahead and Doug, you'll give me my go ahead, and then we'll start with that. Okay. So yeah, everybody's kind of moving papers, and
yeah, no problem.
by the way, Mick is here. I don't know if I told you that yet, but he's just amazing. And everybody, it's so funny, John, everybody's taking notes like crazy. Everybody's like, all right, you better be taking notes for me. Fortunately, we're going to get a transcript of this. So
where are you guys located, by the way?
We're in Westchester, Pennsylvania, outside.
Ah, terrific. Yeah.
So it's a great place to raise a family. And I've been.
Hey, we didn't get into the midterms at all, but you guys have one heck of a Senate race.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, we can. Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Fantastic. All right. We'll do that. We'll start with China. Right. And we'll talk about, can I ask you whether you think that Biden's going to run again? Or
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. You can ask me that.
All right.
You can ask me. We can do. I think on present facts, I think they both run again, but that could always change.
Sure.
But that's and in present facts, if they both run again, they both get their party's nominations. I can explain that too.
Oh,
but yeah. So, but who? I mean, there's a little bit of a who knows on both of those, but that'll be a fun thing.
Right.
So maybe we talk about the midterms and then kind of curtain raiser on 2024.
Good. Okay. All right. And should we talk about the economy a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an economist, so I'd be kind of spitballing it, but I'm, I mean, I kind of hear what people internally are saying, but so I can give you the headlines, but not deep,
Okay. All right. Well, then that's we'll stick with the politics and, China and Russia, and, I may even tell them what you just said. Say, here you are with Capital Group, one of the finest, most respected firms in the country, if not the world. And I love the fact that you know what you know, and you defer to others when you don't. And that's what really leads to trust. So
yeah, we have a lot of people who are experts on that, and pay great attention to what they have to say.
Yeah, great stuff. Okay, so let me know. Okay, good. Let me get my notes here. Okay, this. We talked about that. Okay, so we're going to focus on basically the internal politics. Okay.
And China.
And China. We'll start off with China. I'll refer to the last podcast and then go.
Okay, good.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Patty Brennan Show. Whether you have $20 or $20 million, this show is for those of you who want to protect, grow, and use your assets to live your very best lives. Joining me again is John Emerson. John is with the Capital Group. For those of you who were fortunate enough to listen to our prior podcast, if you haven't listened to it, I highly encourage you to go back and listen to that one first. John is cut. Where's your bio? Okay, there we go. Sorry, I didn't want papers flying around. Okay. Okay. We're going to take it from the top. Sorry.
Sure, no problem.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Patty Brennan Show. Whether you have $20 or $20 million, this show is for those of you who want to protect, grow, and use your assets to live your very best lives. Joining me for a second podcast, How Lucky Are We, is John Emerson. John is, if you listen to the prior podcast, you heard my introduction there. If you didn't get a chance to listen to it, you I just have to tell you that I am pinching myself that I have the John Emerson on my show today. By the way, I should also mention, because we are talking about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, that today is March 21st. And this is such a fast moving situation that, a week from now, it could be completely different. But we can't get anybody better to give us some insight into what might be going on over there, what might be in Vladimir Putin's brain, and what his strategy might be, and potential outcomes. I thought, John, your insight in terms of what you think the end game is actually going to look like was fascinating. So before we go, let me just give you some background on John. John is vice chair of Capital Group's international division, in charge of global distribution. In between 2013 and 2017, he was the ambassador to Germany. And if any of you are history buffs, that happened to be the time when Russia invaded Crimea. So John has incredible insight into what was going on then and what might be going on now. In 2017, he was awarded the CIA Medal and the U.S. Navy's Distinguished Public Service Award. And he was also awarded the State Department Susan M. Cobb Award for exemplary diplomatic service. And I will tell you again, I don't mean to overdo the prior podcast, but now reading that, I totally understand, John, why you received that award, because you understand the importance of the diplomacy and the fact that to a certain extent we can't back Putin into a corner, because the erratic behavior could get incredibly worse, and real devastation could be the result. So again, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
So let's kind of pick up where we left off. Okay. I'm curious what you think about this newfound kind of love affair. It's probably not a love affair, but this newfound relationship between China and Russia. And I want to run something by you, John. And again, this is you and me talking. I can't believe that I get to talk to you for all this time, even though there's thousands of people who are listening right now. But I'm wondering if you could do a fact check for me. Is it true that Ukraine has a particular type of oil that is really that is the only kind of oil that you can use for computer chips? So I'm wondering, I'm just thinking, outside the box here. I'm wondering if Russia's invasion of Ukraine to get control over that oil is kind of a precursor to China's kind of strategy to invade Taiwan. Taiwan happens to be the computer chip of the world. They make more computer chips than any nation. And then they would dominate that technology and really it could have an amazing and incredible impact on all of us all over the world. Is that true? Or is that
well, the problem, I think the bigger issue with Ukraine is not so much the oil, but the food. China is Ukraine's biggest trading partner today. And it's its biggest trading partner. I mean, not Russia, China, because it buys so much wheat and barley from Ukraine. And one of the things we didn't talk about that's a potential dangerous tragedy that will have massive ramifications for, particularly in the developing world, is Ukraine is missing a growing season here. And who's out there planting fields, right? They're being invaded now. They're trying to deal with that. And much of Ukraine's wheat and barley and grains, other grains, obviously goes to China, but much of it goes to the developing world as well. So just set that one aside, but that's a big and that isn't impacting things today, but in the next couple of years could be impacting markets globally and create humanitarian disaster globally as well. In terms of the semiconductor piece, don't forget, if China invades Taiwan, they'll probably be destroying the semiconductor industry. I mean, that's not going to be an easy, we can talk about what are the takeaways that China has from this, and one of them may well be Well, okay, the Taiwanese army military isn't necessarily as well trained as the Ukrainian military, but let me tell you, Taiwan is way better armed in terms of planes, in terms of anti-aircraft equipment, so on and so forth. So you would be, you could easily see kind of a shutdown of that. I think my sense is China, you know, and maybe the situation you're talking about would play into this. China would rather develop its own capabilities over the next 5-10 years in semiconductors and sort of do it that way, whether they're stealing intellectual property or what have you. But that's probably more likely than a short term, let's get this oil, ultimately through Russia, and then let's, invade Taiwan to take over the semiconductor industry. I don't see it playing out quite that way.
Very interesting. And so what do you think about Biden's handling of the whole conflict?
Well,
et cetera.
I mean, I actually think he's doing quite well in that. I think he's getting good marks for it. It hasn't had that much of an impact on his overall approval rating, but you see the polls that come out recently, including over this past weekend, are he's getting very high marks. And this from on a bipartisan basis, which is sort of encouraging. It's nice to see the country coming together on something, right?
Yeah.
But just back to China, and you mentioned this alliance they seem to have, or partnership, or whatever. I think this 5,000 word communique that Putin and Xi published after their eve of the Olympics meeting is hugely significant, because what it suggests is that, or it suggests what it declares is that China and Russia are going to work together to try to create a new world order, a different order than the rule of law order that the West established in the wake of the Second World War. And they talk about it being a partnership for life without condition. Okay, so of course you've now seen China, at least from the standpoint of its public statements, be very supportive of Russia. But note two things. Number one, the word Ukraine did not appear anywhere in that 5,000 word communique. And number two, while China has publicly said, yeah, we're backing Russia, so far they've declined Russia's invitation to supply military. That is something to keep an eye on, by the way, to supply military support to Russia. And number two, they keep calling for peace and communicating with Ukraine and talking about, national sovereignty. Sovereignty is really important to China, right? Because they want to say, respect sovereignty. Don't tell us what we can and can't do with the Uyghurs, or Hong Kong, or ultimately Taiwan, which they see as clearly part of China. So at the Munich Security Conference, and I was sitting in the audience when this happened, Wang Yi, who's the foreign minister of China, gave this big speech, and he talked about sovereignty in the speech. And so in the Q&A period afterwards, Wolfgang Ischinger, who's the chairman of the Munich Security Conference, asked him, well, does that include Ukraine? And he had to say yes, which was pretty interesting.
Oh.
So this is, my theory is that while Xi Jinping initially thought, hey, this Russia-Ukraine thing is great. I get a freebie. I get to watch while Vladimir Putin's taking all the risk and being the tip of the spear. What is the West response to this kind of invasion? I mean, will they in fact deliver on imposing the level of sanctions that they are threatening to impose? What will the military response be? And he's got an answer. And I would think that the answer will certainly give him pause as it relates to Taiwan in two respects. Respect number one is, wow, the West came together. They were serious. They imposed serious economic sanctions. That would happen here in all likelihood. And I'm trying to rebuild our economy, and I don't necessarily need that, certainly not right now. So that would give him pause. The second thing that would give him pause is he knows he's got the biggest military in the world, technologically, superior military in many respects, but a very poorly trained and an inexperienced military. military. And to watch Russia get bogged down in Ukraine, I think it's got to make Xi Jinping go, I wonder how we would fare under these kinds of circumstances. It's interesting. He often talks about, well, he saber rattles and they do drills, you know, on the, you know, in the part of China that was closest to Taiwan, and they sometimes have overflights of Taiwanese airspace. The truth is, he always talks about having a world-class military by 2050. So he knows they've got a long way to go in terms of that. They haven't fought in a war since the end of our Vietnam War, when they fought against Vietnam for a while, and that didn't work out too well for them. So you know, so that's the second thing. The one area of positive, I suppose, Xi Jinping could say, this is interesting. The West and NATO did not engage militarily because they don't want to engage with a nuclear power. So that would be, so, you know, maybe what he draws from that is the United States would probably be unlikely to send its own military in to support Taiwan, but you can never be sure. So that's the good news for Xi Jinping. He got to learn those things. The bad news is this is turning out to be, maybe disaster is too strong a word, but certainly turning out to be a highly problematic for China. And the reason is that part of that several of Xi Jinping's objectives in terms of geopolitics and in terms of his own economy are to make sure that Europe does not follow the lead of the United States, which is getting much more restrictive when it comes to China in terms of its economy, trade, policy, so on and so forth. So he has been working hard, traveling to Europe, European leaders traveling to Beijing, Germany in particular is in the middle of this. I mean, Audi has 9 factories in China, and Daimler's made a commitment to build factories in China, and Siemens and other major German companies. I mean, you know, Xi Jinping wants to, and by the way, China is Germany's largest trading partner too. I mean, China's the largest trading partner of a lot of countries in Europe, and they know, he knows that Europeans are under pressure from the United States, from the Americans to, you know, slow down their deepening involvement with China and you know, sort of engage in sort of the more punishing behavior that we have inflicted on them. And he doesn't want to see that happen. So what's the consequence of this? All of a sudden, Europe and the United States are closer together. Not necessarily on China, but they're closer together on sanctions. They're closer together on the military. You know, that cannot be good news for him. And the second thing is, as a result of the sanctions and blowback on the sanctions, and what's likely to happen to European economies as a result of the energy crisis and spike in energy and all that, there could very well be a global recession, or certainly a recession in Europe. He wants to sell stuff that China makes to Europe, right? A recession is not helpful in that kind of relationship, and a global recession would touch on China very dramatically, again, at a time when Xi Jinping is trying to stabilize the Chinese, deal with some of the challenges that it has in the real estate area and other areas. And so, you know, he's got to be sitting there. And then the final thing, what he'd be very worried about, I think, is being painted with that Putin pariah brush.
Right.
You know, going, you know, for sure, Putin is a pariah in Europe. I don't see that changing anytime soon, if ever, right? And the more it looks like Xi Jinping is his sort of little pal as they're doing this together, and you know, besties forever. That is not going to be helpful to China in dealing with Europe, and it could, depending on how supportive China is of Russia economically or particularly militarily, it could put China in the crosshairs of the sanctions regimen that Europe is already and the United States are already imposing on Russia. So it's if I'm Xi Jinping, I think they're in treaties about can't we all get along here and let's have peace. I think that's more than lip service. I think they really, it's not helpful to them to have this go on. And by the way, think about the food crisis I mentioned earlier. They want to buy that Ukrainian wheat and barley. Well, if it ain't being grown and harvested and shipped, that's not helpful to them either in terms of their needs in terms of food. So I think it's a pretty complicated situation. And you see China almost twisting itself into a pretzel in terms of its response here. I would keep an eye on this question of providing military support to Russia, because if they and I honestly believe that at the end of the day, that geopolitical relationship with Russia is probably more important to Xi Jinping than anything else. He does not want to see Russia fail. He does not want to see Russian economy totally crater. Very interesting period of time to watch in that relationship.
Boy, wow. Very interesting. So let's bring this back to our shores. You know, we've got a lot going on in the United States, even outside of the Russian, Ukrainian, situation. For example, we've got our own midterm elections coming up. What do you think about that? I'd be curious, because I know you've got a lot of experience in that realm as well, working with different presidents and the like. What do you think?
Well, I think that the general conventional wisdom, which is that Democrats are going to lose the House and the Senate, is partially right, but partially we don't know yet. And I'll play that out for you. So when you think about the House of Representatives, every time the same party has control of the White House, the House, and the Senate, they get whacked in the midterm. The only exception to that, the early 90s, when Clinton lost, he had a 50-seat majority in the House and a 7 or 8 seat majority in the Senate, lost both of them in 1994 after his election in 92. The only exception to that was in 2002 when George W. Bush had both the Senate and the House and basically lost. It didn't lose anything in 2002, but that was partially because we were in the rally around the flag effect from 9/11. But once he got reelected in 2004, lost both in 2006. Obama comes in, he's got everything. In 2008, we got the Tea Party movement, loses the House in 2010. He gets reelected 2012, loses the Senate in 2014. Trump comes in, has them both, gets his big tax bill cut. Almost does away with Obamacare, but for John McCain's, thumbs down, and then loses the House badly in 2018, and then loses the Senate and actually loses his own election in 2020. So, and now Biden is sitting here with a much smaller majority than either Clinton or Bush or Obama or Trump had in both bodies. So there's like a zero majority in the Senate, it's 50-50 Senate, and there's a 5 or 6 seat majority in the House. So history, huge headwind for the Democrats. Second thing that's a headwind is and you asked me earlier about, how's Biden doing with his response to this? Well, he's doing great. But guess what, folks? As James Carville said during the Clinton campaign, it's the economy, stupid. And what people are going to vote for in the midterms is whether they think we're on a right track or a wrong track in terms of the direction of the country. And wrong track, you're very unlikely to continue to give, leadership to party that's been in power. So the right track, wrong track numbers are upside down insofar as the Democrats are concerned. And I think there are a couple of reasons. One is obviously you've got people are sick of COVID. They're tired of it. They're just sort of in a bad mood in general, right? Second thing is, and even though unemployment is at record lows and wages are going up, so is inflation. And the problem with inflation is, and now there are all these statistics that show that actually, if you look at the increase of wages and the increase of costs, the people are still ahead, but individuals don't feel that way. Families don't feel that way. And on inflation, you get a report card every time you get in your car and drive 4 or 5 blocks and see a big sign in front of a gas station that says what gas prices are, right? I mean, I saw one in California. There are several in California that are over $6. I filled up my car, which has about a 17-gallon tank, and it was $97. This was yesterday when I filled that up. Usually, it used to be $40 to fill that car. So in any event, this is not helpful for Biden's approval ratings. Not helpful for the Democrats. I also think that honestly, the Democratic Party made a mistake in terms of the way it handled the election in 2020. Joe Biden was elected because he wasn't Donald Trump. He was elected to restore a sense of calmness, decency, and competence of those who voted for him, to the government. He wasn't elected to be Bernie Sanders, and he wasn't elected to be FDR and a big transformation president. When particularly the progressive wing of the Democratic Party saw, aha, we control the House, we technically control the Senate, because if you get all 50 Democratic senators plus Kamala Harris as the vice president breaks the tie under those circumstances, you can get anything you want through. Well, not really. Not when you have a couple of those 50 senators who represent ruby red states, and not when you have a number of House members who represent districts that actually voted for Donald Trump in the presidency, but voted for them, moderate Democrats in the Congress. And so it was unrealistic overreach, if you will, in terms of some of the policies. And then also that by trying to combine everything into one, it sort of lost it. It was all about the big number. And it was none about the individual policies, many of which were quite popular in terms of, child care and increased health care and reducing prescription drug prices and things like that. If it took some of these things separately, probably would have had a better time with it. Then the third thing was you had that disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, which I think the way the Russian situation's been handling, the Russia-Ukraine situation's been handled, sort of mitigated some of the perception coming from that, but that still sort of stuck with it. So you have a situation where history's against the Democrats, and the Biden approval numbers have been hurt as a consequence of those things that I just mentioned. Makes it very, very tough to see them holding the House. The only thing that I think could change it would be as if you have some external galvanizing incident or event that changes the political dynamic in the next few months. And that you could say black swan event, so it's a black swan, you don't know about it. The only thing I could think of that could potentially do that that's not just out of the blue would be if the Supreme Court were to somehow completely gut or overturn Roe v. Wade. I think that might, in swing congressional districts, you might have voters who would be inclined to vote Republican, but they sometimes vote Democrat, say, I want to send a message that this is not okay. I mean, there'll be other districts where this will be a hugely positive thing. Those are probably districts that are going to go Republican anyway. So in any event, that's, that would be maybe something. So I think 90%, maybe 95% Democrats lose the House. On the Senate, it's much more of a close call. It's almost a flip of the coin. Why? Because you have 4 to 5 vulnerable Republican seats, 3 of which are vulnerable simply because of retirements. And you have 3 or 4 vulnerable Democratic seats. And honestly, if you break it down, I would say you probably have, 3 vulnerable Republican seats and 2 vulnerable Democratic seats in any event. So it's entirely possible that you get, a pickup here, a loss there, you stay with 50-50, or one way or the other, it's like 51-49. Could be very, very close. I don't see this being a red wave election to be the Senate, and there's a possibility the Democrats could control that. And of course, your home state of Pennsylvania is one of those retirements. You got very, highly packed and intense primaries in both parties for who's going to be the nominee, and that one will probably be a very, very close election in Pennsylvania, and a critical one for control of the Senate. But if everybody holds, if the Republicans hold all their seats and the Democrats hold all their seats, we're still at the 50-50 situation. So and you might say, well, why is that important? Because Biden's not going to be able to get any legislative agenda through anyway, with the Republicans controlling the House for appointments. We have a Supreme Court nomination that's the hearings are happening next week. If the Republicans control the Senate, it creates a very different dynamic in terms of what happens on the Supreme Court. Remember, in the last year of Obama, when at the early part of the year, all of a sudden, Justice Scalia dies suddenly and shockingly, and Mitch McConnell, who controlled the Senate, said, we're not even going to hold a hearing on a successor. notwithstanding the fact that numerous times in history where in the final year of a presidency, a Supreme Court justice was appointed and confirmed by the Senate, he said, we're not going to, so that he has the control to do that. And, if you had an opening the next time, you could easily see that happening again. So that's very important for for appointments, and particularly thinking about judges and future people in administration. There's always a lot of turnover in administration after the midterms. These jobs are 24/7 jobs. Many of them are quite exhausting. People often don't even stay for the full 4 years, and so those people have to be confirmed as well. So that would be, I think, a consequence, and why it would be important from the Democratic standpoint to keep control of the Senate, and of course equally important for the Republicans to flip that one seat that they would need to take control. So that's how I see the midterms at this point in time.
Okay, so let's fast forward. Since I have you, I am curious. Raise the curtain on 2024. Do you think that Biden runs? Do you think that Trump runs? Excuse me. What do you think that election is going to look like?
I think on present facts, if I were to be making a prediction, I think we have a rerun of 2020. I think if Trump runs again, he gets the Republican Party nomination. Even though there's some candidates that are looking at running against him, I think his flirtation with Vladimir Putin over the years, and even calling him a genius, before this invasion started, there are some in the Republican Party who are going to use that against him if they decide to run against him. But he still has such control over the Republican Party base, or what the Republican Party base has evolved into in the age of Trump. He created a lot of new voters. I mean, if you think about it, in 2020, Biden got the most votes of any presidential candidate in history. Trump got the second most votes of any presidential candidate in history, 74 million votes. And a lot of those were new voters. There were people who had been turned off to the process, never paid attention, whatever, who came out and voted, particularly in rural America. So this is a new Republican Party. And I think, it's no longer the Reagan-Bush party. It's the Trump party, the party of Trump. And you can see that in the reluctance of so many current Republican office holders, including many who are cowering under their desks on January 6th to even want to proceed with the investigations on January 6th. So that's just an indication of the control that he has over his party. So I think if he runs again, he loves the spotlight. He probably wants to prove that, he could win. Or in his view, he did win, and he's going to win it for a third time. The way he characterize it. But honestly, I don't know. I mean, I don't have any insight into his thinking on that. But you have to sort of, looking at public statements, you have to guess that he runs and gets the nomination. Go ahead.
I guess the other way to ask the question is, why wouldn't he run? Why wouldn't he run?
I think he wouldn't run. Number one, if he's kind of enjoying his life now, he'd be the big kingmaker. He's, kind of traveling around as much as he wants to travel. He's playing golf. He's making money again. And he doesn't want to lose.
Right.
I mean, and let me just tell you something. Historically, a president loses one or both seats of Congress in their second year in office, they get reelected. Happened to Clinton. Happened to Obama. So didn't happen to Trump. But that, I think, Trump's presidency was a rather unique, presidency from that standpoint. But it's historically, and the reason is the public likes sort of a balance, and so I mean, I don't know if people actually go into the polling booth and think, well, I'm doing this, but it just sort of ends up playing out that way. So in a strange way, if you have the Republicans controlling the House and the Senate, moderate swing voters who independents, which is a third of the country, those are the ones that determine presidential elections in states like Pennsylvania. They may say, I'm not sure we want to go back to what we had with Trump and two, but maybe it helps Biden a little bit get reelected, which of course answers your second question, which is, does Biden run for reelection? And I think, and I must say, people look at me cross-eyed sometime when I say this, but I think that absent some sort of catastrophic health situation, which obviously, none of us would hope would happen, I think for sure Biden runs again. He's been saying he's going to run. He doesn't want to be what do you call it? A lame duck. And I think he runs even if the Democrats lose the House or the House and the Senate in the midterm elections. And I think in many ways, particularly if it looks like Trump's going to be the nominee for the Republican Party, Biden might well be the strongest candidate the Democrats would have against him. And you'd have a rerun, which would mean a big popular vote win for Biden and a razor thin electoral college vote in the general election to see if really, in fact, will be the president. I mean, it's just going to be. I mean, look. 5 out of our last 6 presidential elections, from an electoral college standpoint, have been razor thin. In 2 of them, the loser of the popular vote won the presidency almost in a third, because if 45,000 votes had changed in Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona collectively, Trump would have been president and not Biden. So I mean, I think we're looking at another nail biter in terms of the presidential. So that's my curtain raiser on 2024.
Fantastic. Well, folks, you heard it here first. John, thank you so much. So interesting, great intel on China, Russia, the United States, our political situation, the midterm elections, and as you put it, raising the curtain on the presidential election in 2024. So thank you, thank you, thank you. What a privilege it has been to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for everything that you do for those of us, those financial advisors, in the United States who rely on Capital Group as we do for really independent thinking, objective. Folks, I would like to tell you something about John and Capital Group in general that happened between the 2 podcasts today. So I said, John, so the second podcast, I usually like to ask people like what's okay to ask you and what's not okay to ask you, right? So we talk to, can we talk about China? Yeah, sure. Ask me anything. And what about the economy? He said, Patty, he said, I don't know that I'm going to be the best person to answer your questions on the economy. I'm not an economist. We have great people internally here who are experts on the economy. I mean, I can give you an overview, a top level kind of opinion, if you will, but that's not my area of expertise. And I have to tell you guys, that is the reason why Capital Group is so trusted by people in our industry, because they give it to you straight. They're not fluffing things up. They're not, it's just good old fashioned advice, and they don't make excuses. They just give it to you real. And John Emerson is a perfect example of that culture. So thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to have you.
Well, thank you, Patty, and thank you for the work that you and your team does to really help your clients navigate through these challenging and difficult times. We really appreciate that. I know they really appreciate that, but you guys are terrific, and I just want to thank you for what you do as well.
You bet. Absolutely. It takes a village, right, John? It takes a village.
Yeah, it does.
So thanks to all of you for tuning in today. If you have any questions, you want to hear more about this topic or other topics, go to our website at keyfinancialinc.com. Let us know what you think. Feel free to, put in a comment. Let us know if there's something else that you want to learn about, because we do this for you. It's wonderful for us because in preparation for these podcasts, we have great conversations with people like John, in advance. And I learned so much. It's fantastic. So we're learning together. So thank you for giving all of us that opportunity to do so. I hope you stay healthy. I hope you stay safe. Thank goodness we live in the United States of America and have wonderful people leading us in both Republican and Democratic governments. And, you know, it just is, there's a lot to be grateful for. And most of all, I'm grateful for you. So thanks again. Have a great day.
Okay, out and clear, 3850. Excellent job, guys.
Good.
It was unbelievable.
Great work, Patty. That was fantastic. Very enjoyable. You can have me back anytime. You're terrific.
You were fantastic. Oh, the only thing that I did well was not talk. If I can just, I will just not talk and let you go.
I was afraid I
No.
talked too much, but
No. Oh my goodness. I was so glad you just go. Just do your thing. That's what this is all about, because you're, and I really meant that about Capital Group and you in particular, just listening to you down at Barron's and just getting to know you a little bit better. I'm so grateful for the relationship that we have with you and everybody.
Oh, well, thanks. Thanks so much. And by the way, I love that behind you there, wisdom and care
Yes,
as not just wealth management, but it's really, I think it's fantastic. And to think about care as well, it's got to be, that's the right approach.
it's everything, you know, it's everything. I don't know if Mick told you, but my prior life, I was not a financial anything. I used to be an ICU nurse. I was
Oh, wow.
How
That's
about that?
fantastic. What a great story.
Yeah.
What
So
a great story.
yeah, that's it. And that's what it is. It's just, you know, think about the two things that are important to people. It's their health and their money. And
exactly.
you know, it's the wisdom is to get people and the wonderful people working together for our clients. So yeah, it's I'm grateful. So thank you.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
All right. You take care now.
You too.
Have a
John.
good
Thanks
week.
a lot. And you as
Okey-dokey.
well. Take care now.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Super strong. He was amazing. Oh my God. Mick, that doesn't happen if it wasn't for you. So I hope that we do have thousands of people who listen to this podcast, and I hope I meant every word about Copper and about you and everybody there. It's just to give it to us real, and it's just a great partnership. So thank you. And thank you for arranging to have John.
Great job.
You are amazing. Thank you.
Is that your lunch out there?
I don't know. Is
that-
there a lunch?
It was Carrie ordered it,
Oh,
a couple of salads. I
Oh,
mean,
cool.
you're more than happy
you
to
know,
have.
Mick, yeah, that's fine.
Well, I'm just thinking, you're
Yeah.
just going, you're such a pro, everyone here is such a pro, and I'm thinking, how is she going? And I have a feeling that's her lunch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have not eaten.
Right,
Nope.
It's
Yeah.
3:15.
Right. It's the story of my life. These guys literally, these guys will literally put food on my desk in front of me and say, you need to eat something. You need to eat something. Doug is famous like, okay, you need a power bar or something.
Wait,
because you're gonna,
Nick, you'll get a kick out of this. Look at the bottom of that sheet.
oh,
Look
geez.
at the notes part. What's the first thing on it? What does it say?
Patty eat question mark.
Oh, did I eat? Did I eat? Yeah.
It's Patty Eat. It's my
Right.
pre-interview discussion notes. Patty,
Exactly.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, it says so much right back to what you and John were talking about. Again, it's just the care, right?
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
clients first, and
Exactly.
you'll eat, you'll catch your breath, you'll
Whatever.
get some water.
Yeah,
but clients first.
absolutely.
I'll let you eat. I'm gonna
Thank you so
back
much.
away.
Thank
Okay,
you so
great
much.
job.
You
Yeah.
listen, you're a great
That
friend.
was great.
I'll walk
Yep.
you out.
Thanks.
Thank
so-
you.
I
Absolutely.
appreciate you
Doug,
being here.
I
I
don't wanna-
hope,
Great pleasure meeting
I
you.
can't wait
Yeah.
to get the
Thank you.
transcript on this, you know, it's, and we'll get the written, you know, the written.
So they're
transcript.
both gonna drop on Friday. And we do like to send our guests a little something, so if you can give me an address of where we can send something to John.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Absolutely, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Tim is here. I don't. He's here now.
All right, I'm gonna sign out. I can see myself out there. You guys debrief. See you later.
Thank you.
Take
Nice
care.
to meet
Thank
you.
you. Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Likewise. Thank you. watching you.
Hour early. What? Yeah, this is definitely gonna go later, and it's 1,000 degrees in there, so you don't want to be in here anyway. What? What? I think it's perfect. How can I help? Take it down.
We need this laptop thing. Out. What a shit show. My name's right now.
Here's your good card. Don't forget that. That's your good card.
Okay, so.
All right, so I gotta unwind these mics. We're done with that, right, Vern?
Yeah,
me help you get
trying to
that out.
it out. What is it connected to?
Well,